Good morning and welcome to Frank's School. 125th day of the 6th year, first video. Hydra, now my friend. Hydra's in my quest for culture. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu fought it out and then became friends, then they wanted to go on quests, or at least Gilgamesh did. He wanted to go on a quest with his new friend. That's why I call this a quest for culture. And I'll explain that here in just a moment. But I did want to say that as a result of what I put on about the Barcelona group and especially Georgos Kallis, he emailed me. He sent me a link and basically pointed out that I had skipped this guy. I knew his name, but I didn't really appreciate how important he was. And he even sent me as an attachment his book, Farewell to Growth. Now, Sergei Latouche is a Frenchman. Most of his writing is in French, I think, but this was translated in English. And it will be a rich resource for me. I don't think there's any doubt about it. So thanks, Georgos. He sent me other stuff as well. There's a whole body of that. But I have to leave that behind, and I'll explain that in a moment. Well, to get on with my quest, because there's so many words. I mean, I have used so many words in dealing with Hydra in my head, and one of the original causes of that was words. There are so many words or terms, names that I've got. Well, I want to get past that. I actually don't. I think words are overrated, which is almost an ironic thing to say given how many words I've been using. But again, before I go on to that, in the recent videos that I've made, I've touched on economics, politics, government, and I've found my community. I think I don't believe there's any doubt about it. I want to add a couple of terms though. Dematerialism. At some point, I probably should have mentioned that. And Gandhian economics, also I think it's called Buddhist economics. I'm not going to explain it. I'm just giving you the term. And villagism. Now, if you look up villagism, it's going to tell you it's a linguistic term for something that's a way of speaking that's unique to just one village. That's not what I mean. A follower of Gandhi had written a book called Capitalism, Socialism, or Villagism. And it's an economic system, and I think it's embraced to some extent by what I've touched on already, and I'm going to go on with it. But I really do need to go on. When I say we're in a quest for culture, well, I was reminded as a freshman at Harvard, I had thought about various majors, and one of the ones I was considering was anthropology. And I remember in the first lecture on anthropology, I don't know if it was the first one, but early, the man was trying to explain that society and culture are two different things. Society, as I recall, was a group of people that interact together. Culture was a shared set of habits, like English, speaking English, or using suspenders, or whatever. That's culture. And that's what I'm talking about. Culture, not so much the words, not the language, but the culture. And the culture that we have been living with will not work anymore. I mean, I'm sorry if you don't accept that, but it's not going to work anymore. It is a bankrupt culture, you might as well say. It has to change. Well, one of the terms I just recently ran into was this term lifestyle packages, because one of the writers, it wasn't a Georgos Kallis, but somebody that was debating with him to some extent, was pointing out that there was going to be so much trauma involved as people had to adjust their lifestyle packages. And yes, I think he's absolutely right. But one of the things that degrowthers are trying to show or argue is that this is not a bad thing necessarily. This is not all loss. And so what I'm trying to do now is is get on that far side of a concept of sort of loss. You take things away, you don't have as much, and find what is there on that far side that is so good, or could be so good. And now I need the help of artists. Artists, and I don't just mean visual artists, I mean artists of all kinds. They guide culture. They're the cutting edge of culture. And so I'm basically leaving all these words, and although poets are artists, but all this discussion, all these books, all these universities, I'm leaving them behind, and Hydra and I are, and moving toward culture, where I think I'm probably going to be much happier, actually. And of the various artists, I want to start with some visual ones, visual artists, what you see. Simon Benning, I guess is his name. This is sort of chronological order. This is going way back. Miniature illuminations, the Flemish calendars. If you would look him up, and then with images, there you would see these looks, these views into peasant life, life of comparative simplicity. I don't like that word simplicity anyway, because those lives were very complex. But anyway, he is worth looking at. Those images, I know many of them very well, although I did not know his name. Bruegel, he's pretty well known. Now I'm coming up, I don't know, 100 years, maybe 200 years. Bruegel, he's part of the Netherlands school, and he's well enough known. If you would look at Bruegel and look at images, this is Peter Bruegel the Elder, or maybe the younger too, I don't know. But anyway, if you look at his view of peasant life, there you would see it too. Norman Rockwell, the American writer, I thought of him in this context because he shows a view of a culture that had not yet disappeared in his time, but was in threat of disappearing. Norman Rockwell. I'm not as fond of Andrew. He's the guy that did the Saturday Night Evening Post covers, so many of them. I'm not as fond as Andrew Wyeth's work, and I might not have thought of him, except that I found that term regionalism as a school of art. I didn't know about that term. So Hydra's still at it, coming up with these terms, these names. And regionalism is worth looking at as well. And then finally, dealing with the artists. I at one point made out an appeal for a visual artist to create a storyboard for something that's come, well, it's already online. I gave this long story of a screenplay sort of called, for a movie I imagine called Resurrection. I'm thinking of, and within a week I would say, or at least 2 weeks, I'm going to be back at that again. A visual artist could have a role to play in this, not only historical, but also in terms of the future. Well, bye for now.